I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, a mailbag question I've been getting on my blog here quite a bit, and people emailing me from time to time, is about, Owen, should I sell my investment condo? My tenant left a month or two ago, and I'm having a hard time getting a tenant. Now, I can tell you the last one I got here, he was talking about a one-bedroom condo, sorry, it was a two-bedroom condo out in Langley. And most of the ones I get like this are not in downtown Vancouver. They're usually out in Coquitlam, some in Brentwood, which is starting to get pretty overbuilt in my opinion, or Metrotown, which I'll talk about in a minute. So I'm not familiar with those areas. As you guys know, live in downtown Vancouver. My main market is downtown, east side, west side Vancouver. Still do a fair bit of work in Richmond, and do a fair bit of work in Burnaby. But after that, Coquitlam, Surrey, Langley, Fort Langley, Aldergrove, I have a team, and I've got realtors that know those areas much better than I do, and I put them on either the listing or the buy side for those areas because they're going to do a better job than I can. But this is why, guys, I've always recommended on my blog here for my market is why I recommend downtown Vancouver. It is the major leagues. One of the reasons is most of these are out in the burbs. They're building for days out there, and I can't speak on these specifically because I don't know the building. I don't know what he's asking for rent. Maybe his rent's too high. But the problem there is that's where all the building is happening. They're pumping out new product. And when that happens, of course, it's keeping pace or even surpassing what the demand is for rents. And when that happens, rents start to come down and it becomes more difficult to get a tenant. So that's why I've always said here, if you've got the budget, I would buy in downtown Vancouver. And in some cases, if you don't have the budget, maybe save up for another year or two until you can. Because you can buy a good older concrete unit in the West End here in and around $600,000. Shared laundry, of course, but prime location, concrete, strata's in good order. For $650, $675, it opens up another whole bunch of buildings for me in the West End or downtown, Yaletown, or that kind of thing. So, the reasons that I've talked about them many times here, just a much better tenant pool down here. Most of your tenants here are going to be young tech workers, pulling down $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year. So a much higher beacon score for the most part in downtown Vancouver. But the other big thing is they're not building anything in Vancouver anymore, except for rentals, which I'm going to get to in a minute here. But I've talked about this for the last 3 years. I've been pounding this. Take a look around in downtown Vancouver. There are very few cranes going up. Any of the cranes you do see, the vast majority of those now are building market rental. They were going to be condo, but now they've all been scrapped to market rental. So they're not building stratified condo. Of the few that are being built in Cole Harbour, there's the odd one going up in the West End here. It is ultra luxury condos. So these are going to be starting at $2,000 a square foot up to, well over $4,000 a square foot. So hardly what you'd call affordable. You can still buy a good older concrete or a good wood frame in the West End, or a 20 or 25-year-old concrete in Yaletown for around $1,000 a square foot. Some even less. I've got one right now that needs a full reno, 2-bed, 2-bath. I'm listed for $950 a square foot with parking and a 150 square foot deck, private patio. For $950 a square foot. It needs a reno, but it's a 20-year-old concrete building right on Howe Street. So that's where I would buy, because they're not building anything more in that price category at $950 to $1,100 a square foot. The downtown is very desirable because the jobs, tech workers, everything is in the downtown core. So the rental market for downtown, sure, maybe it's softened a little bit here, but rents are staying pretty solid. I mean, we had a huge surge here since 2020 after COVID. The cap rates now are better than they've ever been, pretty much. Maybe not quite as good as they were last year, come off maybe 5%. But I've given you guys lots of examples. Condos at pre-COVID, you were paying $700 for, would rent for $2,100. You can buy a unit now for $700 and it's going to rent for $2,800 or $2,900. So much better cap rates now. But I don't know this guy's situation. Generally, as you guys know, I say hang on to real estate, try and get a tenant, hang on to it. The market out on the burbs right now is not that good. So try and put a tenant in it, cut your rent a little bit and try and hang on to it if you can. But again, downtown Vancouver market is a lot different than the suburbs. You know, Brentwood, for instance, boy, I see a lot of rentals out there. Prices probably coming down a bit. They're building for days out there in areas like Brentwood and Metrotown and even Richmond to some extent. Downtown Vancouver, not the case. The only thing coming up now is rental. So on that topic, I've talked about this before too. Owen, you own a lot of units downtown. Yeah. Are you worried about, you know, these new rental buildings coming online? Not really, because I think the product I have in downtown Vancouver is far superior to any of these new rental buildings coming online in the next 2, 3, 4 years. And there is going to be a lot of them. Rental buildings, 100% rental buildings are an inferior product pretty much in every way. I know I'll get a few people that are going to disagree with me. They are an inferior product to a stratified condo that is 70-80% owner occupied. Far superior. Generally, most of the strata these days have a better location because all the grade A and grade B locations were built on 20, 30 years ago. Now what we're left with is more the grade C locations on busier streets. But again, I've told you guys, listen, these brand new rental buildings are fine. They're brand new. Finishings are, you know, decent. But yeah, I always go back to this. They are a bit of an animal house in these things, guys. You're 100% tenanted. It's basically a hotel. So you've got endless moving in and out every single month of the year. They're a breeding ground for illegal Airbnbs and other sublets. And again, I talk about, you know, loud music, marijuana wafting through the hallways and all that good stuff. You might get a little bit of that in a stratified condo, but not much. You definitely don't get a whole lot of moving in and out in my building or any of the other buildings I own downtown. Mostly owner occupied, you know, and they've got strata bylaws and they're pretty strict on them. Not quite as strict in a rental building. I've had lots of tenants over the years that have rented one of my places that have been moving out of one of these rental oldie buildings. They get in there for a year, find out it's a bit of an animal house, they never know who their neighbors are, and want to come to a stratified condo and rent from a mom and pop landlord like myself. So, you know, again, I'm a big believer, you guys know, buy and hold real estate. If you can't find a tenant or it's getting tough, then maybe reduce your rent a little bit and try and hang on to it. But I can't speak on this guy, some of these guys' particular situations because I don't know the strata. I don't know what your rent is, what kind of building it is in Langley or Polk or Quitlam or wherever else. But my rule of thumb is if you can, buy in downtown Vancouver. That's where you're going to get the best quality tenant. You're going to get better rent traction there. The quality of tenant alone is enough. You know, I tell you guys, the difference between my downtown tenants and my Richmond tenants is quite a bit different. Nothing wrong with my Richmond tenants, but they're a little bit more blue collar workers. I've got a guy that's, you know, in construction, great guy, but the difference between him and some of my young tech workers, I've got a doctor, I've got a couple of tech workers that are renting from me currently downtown, you know, much higher income levels. That alone saves you a lot of headaches. I've got a little bit more turnover for sure in my Richmond stuff. And again, they're building for days out in these suburbs. The inventory keeps coming online. Downtown Vancouver, it's stopped. They're not building 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 square foot, 1,300 square foot, 1,400, 1,500 square foot condos anymore. They're gone. That ship sailed 10 years ago. All that's going to come online now is rental-only buildings, market rental, mixed in with some social housing in there too. Have fun with that, or even co-op, or not co-op, but yeah, some sort of social subsidized housing along with market rental, all in the same building. Or it's going to be ultra-luxury condo at $2,500 a square foot. So I think you buy a condo today at $1,000 a square foot, concrete downtown, hang on to it for 15 or 20 years, I guarantee it's going to look like a pretty good buy. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my new subscribers. Thanks to everyone that continues to buy my book. You know, I don't plug it that often. Go on to Amazon, search my name or Along for the Ride. You know, it's a good first step for a lot of you guys. It'll show you the roadmap that I took. It's all practical stuff in there. It's not theory. And I still get lots of great comments from people that have bought my book, and it's changed their opinion and their outlook on a lot of things. See you next week.